Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence figuring it out, we have a great guest today. All the men want a wrestler till they do, then they'll die. Olivia, what's up? How you doing?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Um, I switched from boxers to boxer briefs, so everything's fitting just where it's supposed to.
Oh, great. That's fantastic. Nice.
Why don't you tell everyone who you are, what you're about, what you're working on?
I'm a collegiate wrestler who is also very interested in politics. So I do a little bit of writing, I do a little bit of speaking, I produce my own videos. I also do a lot of grassroots work. So I've worked on a few different campaigns this past year. Mostly at the local level, but I did work on one important Senate race that we ended up losing in January. So I do a little bit of everything. I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but also a lot of like in front of the camera stuff. I'm just kind of like, I guess, trying to figure out where I belong in politics as far as like which way I want to take my career. But in terms of ideology, I'm kind of the conservatarian. I started off much more conservative than I am now, I feel like, or at least maybe not conservative, but like more like Republican, I
Okay.
guess. But now I'm definitely leaning more towards the libertarian side. But I am independent. I've never been a registered member of any party. But yeah, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I'm still young, so I'm like growing as my opinions change and stuff. But I've kind of, I think, found a home in like the kind of right side of libertarian politics.
All right, that works. I like that. We'll finally bring you over to the dark side of anarchy eventually, but it takes time.
Maybe honestly, I had a read on my channel the other day, and I was on his channel yesterday, and he was like, I'm not saying I'm there yet, but he was very convincing.
Reed's black belt. He's just sad. Like
he
he's
he
gonna
is
figure it
he's
out.
like completely like, he's like, yeah, I'm an anarchist, but I know it's not gonna happen. I'm just like, he's just doing it to do it. I respect it honestly, but he's like definitely black pilled.
Yeah. See, and I'm gonna get him. Eventually, I'm gonna get him. He's gonna be white pilled, where he
You're a
feels
white
like,
pilled anarchist.
yeah.
You think
There's,
anarchy is gonna happen?
I think there's a
Oh God.
5% chance, man.
All right, convince me. Go ahead, convince
No,
me.
no, 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 no. That's not what we're doing here. You're going to convince me that I'm wrong and that I need to turn my evil self back around and become a
Oh, I
big
don't think
government
you're evil.
libertarian.
I don't think I don't think anarchists are evil. I just think they're idealistic. I
Well,
think it's
everyone's
a noble. I
idealistic
think
in
it's
their
a
own
noble
way.
cause. I think it's a noble cause for sure. But I don't know. I don't think human nature will ever let something like that happen.
I think human nature already shows it every day. You just don't realize it.
In what way?
Do you stop at stop signs?
Sure, yeah.
Why?
I guess because it's safe. It's
Okay.
yeah. You don't want to get hit by a car.
Self-preservation.
Yeah.
Well, that's anarchy. No one made you do it. You made that decision on
Yeah,
your
I mean,
own.
I guess like more often than not, people stop at a stoplight not because there's a cop around the corner, but just because it's safe.
Right. Yeah. So almost, I would say 90% of your life is anarchy. You just don't see it that way.
No, I definitely understand that. I definitely see the merit in terms of like when I argue with people about the war on drugs, and people are like, "What? You can't just make all drugs legal? You want to have junkies over the street?" I'm like, the reason I don't do heroin is not because heroin is illegal. I have no desire to do heroin. If
Yeah.
heroin was sold at the 7-Eleven, I would literally just not do heroin. So yeah, I mean, the people who literally would, the only thing stopping them from doing like hard drugs is the law, then maybe you have some issues. But I think the
Those
majority
people
of
don't
people,
exist. Those aren't real
yeah.
people. That's not a real thing. Anyone that says that is just, well, they hate
I
freedom.
feel like the people who do heroin, they don't really care if it's illegal or not. They
No,
just want to do it.
that's why I tell people all the time every gun law is unconstitutional.
I agree with that.
Because they're like, oh well, we got to keep the guns out of the crazy people's hands, and I'm like, that's not working.
And also, nowhere in the Constitution does it say these are rights for everybody except for crazy people. Crazy people have
No,
rights
it
too.
the Second Amendment ends with "shall not be infringed." I mean, that's pretty clear to me. Pretty clear
Yeah.
means everything that you do, anything, and I've had this argument with people, and this is where it usually goes off the rails. Background checks are an infringement. Sorry, they just are. So they're unconstitutional. I don't care. But that's the anarchy in me coming out. So there's
that. How do you make that? How do you make that palatable to more mainstream libertarians?
You don't.
You don't. Okay.
No, they're blue pilled. You can't get through to a blue pilled person. They have to wake up on their own.
I don't know what pill I am. I go back and forth. I've been like in the beginning. I was like, oh yeah, I'm still.
You're like one of those Tylenols that's red on one side and blue on the other.
Yeah, in the beginning, I was like, I'm so red pilled, like. And when I meant by red pill was like, I'm like the Alex Jones red pill, like, yeah, the water's turning the freaking frogs gay. I'm so red pilled because I believe in this.
Hey.
What?
He was right.
Oh, I know. I'm still.
Saying.
I know. Like, nothing wrong with Alex Jones. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Don't quote me that nothing is wrong with Alex Jones. But Alex Jones.
Someone's flipping it. It doesn't matter now.
Yeah, well, for the most part, Alex Jones is pretty entertaining. So that was like my definition of red pill back then. And then for a while, I was like completely black pilled. I was like, this country's going to shit. Like, there's nothing we can do. And then I was white pilled. I was like, when I got off of Twitter for a while, I was white pilled. I was like, you know what? People are just living their lives. Like, nothing is really that polarized. But then I realized I was kind of coming from a place of privilege. And I realized, like,
oh, gross. She said that disgusting word on my channel.
Privilege.
Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not saying like white privilege or anything like that, but I felt like I just was like in a very like very much in like a bubble. Like I wasn't seeing like I'm not in one of the worst places in the country right now. You know what I mean? Like I'm from the suburbs. Like there's not riots here. There's not a lot of crime here. I'm not seeing a lot of like the effects of a lot of issues facing our country right now.
Right.
But obviously eventually every place will face it. But that was when I was white pilled, when I just like got off the line. I was going on my little jog every day, seeing my neighbors, like, okay, I live in like a little fantasy land. And then when I get back online, I'm like, okay, I'm black pilled all over again. But now I'm like, I'm not completely black pilled. I'm not like, I don't think the world is over, the country is ending, but there's definitely a lot of work to be done, I guess. So I'm like, I'm hopeful pilled. I don't know what color that is.
White.
Oh, I thought white pilled was just like.
No, white pilled is that you just.
I thought white pill was just kind of like blissful ignorance. Like you don't care what's going on. Like
no, you know what's going on. You care. You just see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. You know.
Well, I think.
No, you probably shouldn't call it white pilled. That's probably racist. I
don't know. Probably.
So, you mentioned, and you're right. There's a lot of things going on in the country. And, well, let's just do it. Black Lives Matter is a terrifying organization that is not helping Black people, in my opinion. I do a podcast once a week with Cameron King, and we talk race relations, Blackie and Whitey. Let's get into it. That's what I do with him. Mm-hmm. And they're not – I like the idea. I don't like what they're doing. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, it's like, who's going to disagree with the actual phrase Black Lives Matter? Like,
no, it's a perfectly put together phrase.
Right. Like, no one's going to be like, no, I don't believe that Black Lives Matter.
I bet and there's someone out there.
If you do say that, then you have mental issues. So it like the organization's actually genius for like kind of using that branding, because now you sound like a racist if you say I don't agree with Black Lives Matter. But in reality, I think, well, first of all, now we have like the victims' families coming out. Like, I don't know if you saw, but Tamir Rice's mother came out, released a statement bombing the fuck out of Black Lives Matter because they withheld all these donations. The victims' families never saw a cent of that shit that they raised.
Yeah, no.
There was like millions of dollars. I don't know where the fuck that went. Like ad campaigns, I guess, or just lining the pockets of some certain Democrats. Politicians.
Joe Biden's your president. You're welcome.
Right. And Joe Biden refused to meet with Black Lives Matter anyway. So they really got what they paid for, I guess. But besides the fact that it's a complete scam, it also seems to be encouraging like this kind of like this like leftist dogma that private property doesn't matter. You can just smash whatever the fuck you want. And as long as they're white, it doesn't matter. Like, And then they're
Except most
smashing
of
up,
the shit they were
and there's
smashing was not white. It was
that's
black people's
true.
shit.
But I feel like people got led to believe that they're fighting white supremacy by like smashing these buildings. And I'm like, but these are buildings in your own neighborhood. Like, this is not like the KKK. This is like a small black owned business. So it definitely tricked a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hotep Nation.
Mm-hmm.
They I can't remember. It was a podcast they were doing. And one of them said like every 4 years, black people are at the front of the bus, and then a Democrat gets elected, and it's either you got two options: get off the bus or go to the back where you belong.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's how they treat them for real.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Like, but in solidarity, as David Fight and I have discussed, we have to care about the Asian lives. Everyone should put a yellow square in their Twitter bio.
I love how all these people are getting so angry about it. I'm like, is this not exactly what y'all did over the summer for Black Lives Matter?
Oh, it's about
like,
to set off.
Yeah, it was just so crazy. Like, I honestly retweeted it on my timeline because I wanted people to like kind of, nobody really got mad at me, but I saw the original girl who posted it, Jordan. She was getting a lot of hate from Asians in the comments. But it's the same shit. It's the same shit. And neither of them do anything. Neither of them do shit. So it was just very comical how people were reacting to that.
Well, people just, whatever. Like that, the media just likes to have they need a victim. Doesn't matter. Like
I just thought it was funny how Biden and Kamala went on the first flight out to Atlanta after that shooting happened, but BLM has been pounding on the fucking door for literally months. The first flight out to Atlanta, they went out to Georgia to speak to the Asian community leaders, but they have not spoken to Black community leaders.
No.
They just got
these Black people like, what the hell?
They literally got played. They literally got played.
But they get played all the time. And, at a certain point, you got to be like, guys, wake up. You know what I mean? The Republicans are not as racist as you think. I'm not saying join the Republican Party. I'm just saying, like, Trump had his platinum plan. I'm just saying.
I think it's just time to like hold both parties accountable because
I agree.
Certain demographics do it to the Republican Party too, and like the poorest white places down south are all controlled by Republicans, and nobody really wants to hold their local parties accountable. It's the same thing here.
I don't know what you're talking about. Obviously, you're just like you're seeing something that's not real because white people can't be poor. The Democrats keep telling us this.
White people have all the privilege, just
poor kids are just as smart as white kids. Come on now.
The poor mountain children in the Appalachia have much more privilege and opportunity than the rich, like East Coast Black kids.
in their hut where they don't have running water. Okay.
Yeah, where they don't have shoes or running water or schools and they can't read. They're not white people. They're like a different kind of white. They don't count. But yeah, it's definitely a thing where like the left treats minority groups like the right treats like poor whites, like just kind of like disposable. They're always come back to us. They're always vote for us. Like rural white people are always going to vote Republican, and urban Black people are always going to vote Democrat, and they do nothing to try to like make their lives better to compete over the vote.
See, if I have my way, everyone's going to stop voting.
Yeah. And then even further is that it's like Republicans bank on the rural white vote so much is that they don't even go after the minority vote at all. So it kind of helps each other. The Democrats really don't give a fuck about the poor white vote, and the Republicans know they have it. So it's like there's no party competition. Nobody's lives are going to get any better if you're voting. So I guess maybe the only solution is to either like have a mass like party switch, like just randomly start supporting whichever candidate that actually has like the policies you support rather than the party, or just stop voting altogether and then just take away their power. I don't know.
Just no one vote at all, and they're like, now we don't know what to do. I'd be like,
now they actually have to fight for the vote. What's the point of voting? What's the point of voting if nothing's going to change?
Exactly. So you said a couple things there, and I want to touch on two of them. One of the things that I liked about Trump is Trump did go after the black vote, minority vote,
Yeah,
the
he did.
Hispanic vote. He went after it. He was like, hey, whatever, I'm a minority. I'm orange. You're brown. Whatever. It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
he went for it. And he garnered a lot more in the last election than he did in his first election. The numbers on it were astronomical. They doubled or some nonsense.
I never saw it grow that much. I don't know what polls
He
there was.
managed to increase his support from black men from 28% to 41%.
No, I don't believe that Rasmussen poll. I don't believe it.
This was The Hill did this poll, and they're the ones that put it together.
Really? Because I'm seeing the same numbers came from Rasmussen. I don't believe that because they've always been
Rasmussen's always going to be like goofing shit off no matter what.
Well, I just don't believe it because if 40% of black men approved of Donald Trump at one point in his presidency, then a lot more black men would have voted for Donald Trump, but we didn't see that.
40% of men that vote. You got to understand, a lot of black men are felons. They can't.
Right, but I still feel like it would be a larger percentage.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess with the polls too, you never know because half the time I'm like, because they're over there like, oh, 63% of people approve of Joe Biden. I'm like, you didn't call me. Like that. I think that's nonsense.
That's just I don't think there was a mass exodus of the Democrat Party.
Well, no. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I think Donald Trump actually drew more voters in. I don't think they were specific to a party. I think he just got people that never voted to vote.
Yeah, I mean that's proven by the voting numbers that he got more votes than any other election.
Yeah, well, and what I'm saying is that he also got more minority voters to vote for him than I think any Republican in like 60 years, and that's from actual that's legit votes that he did manage to garner. So I don't know. My point being is that he actually went after the minority vote. He tried as well, I guess, as Republican as Donald Trump would be, if you want to call him that. But he did. He went after it. But the other thing is the Libertarian Party doesn't go after the minority vote either, or the poor white vote, or any of that.
I don't see any outreach from the LP at all. I had to dig to become involved with any libertarian politics. I don't know where the LP is at. So
I don't think they know where they're at.
I can't say whether they do minority outreach or not because I don't see them doing any outreach. So maybe that's just their thing. They don't do any outreach and then expect people to come.
They're too busy fighting with themselves.
That's kind of what it seems like. And it is also weird how the former LP chair, Nick Sarwark, I don't know if I pronounced his last name right, but he has a problem with like every single black libertarian I see. Like he had a problem with Eric July. He had a problem with Maj Touré.
Well, he drove Eric July out of the party. To where Eric was like,
he had a problem with everybody. Right. So maybe that's just the LP platform. They don't do outreach. They actually want to push out people from the party. So
yeah, they're doing a great job. Some of them are doing some outreach. You have Dave Smith, you have Reed, you have these guys. They're trying, like they're pushing. They're trying to get people like yourself who are a little on the fence. Like, no, you're a libertarian. You just don't know it yet. Come on over.
I am.
What do you think about that?
I'm on the right-wing libertarian, so there's some issues that
I'm almost a Republican.
I'm not even almost a Republican. I'm definitely far from a Republican at this point. But I feel like when I eventually run for office, I'm going to have to run as a Republican. I don't see
because the libertarians can't get their shit together.
Exactly. So that's why I tried to not talk too much shit on the Republicans. I try to help build them up because eventually I'm going to have to be banging down their door to be like, please, can I get the nomination?
Why don't you give me some money so I can run?
Exactly. So I'm focused on not tearing them down. I want to tear down the Democrats, but build them up, but better.
Right. I understand. That's awesome. So there you go. She's going to run for office eventually one day. We don't know what. Probably definitely not dog
local. Definitely local. I don't want to be president or anything, but we'll see.
You don't want to be God Emperor? Why not?
No, I don't want to be God Emperor Trump. I don't want to be in charge of the 4D chess. I just kind of want to I want to sit on
you get the QAnon.
Yeah, I just kind of want to sit on a city council or a state house somewhere and actually make changes and the little person's life, not a big lobbyist or have to deal with anything like national or any shit
Well,
like.
that's if libertarians would get their crap together, they'd realize that that's where they need to put their effort. Stop trying to
Yeah.
run people for president that you don't have a snowball's chance. Just pay attention to local crap. Get a whole bunch of libertarians on city councils, county commissioners. Do that. Like, you can do that. That's something you can do.
That's what Young Americans for Liberty does well, but they don't focus on only the LP, and that makes a lot of libertarians mad.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're getting a Republican who is just more libertarian than the last Republican in, that's more of a win than not getting any libertarians elected at all.
I'm all about working backwards.
It's like,
take what you can get and then
it's building the bench. It's building the bench. So like the libertarians can get mad at Yao for promoting a lot of Republicans for local elections, but it's like they're getting a lot of Liberty electors into office on the state level, and y'all can't say the same.
Right, that's true. They don't have shit. Like, they got all excited because they got like one guy in Wyoming or something.
Which is like,
great. Oh, congratulations.
Which is great. But it's like, I think a reality has to be recognized that I think victories can be won within the LP. I think it definitely has a purpose, and I want to see it grow for sure. But for right now, we have to like realize that we have to grow in the GOP, or we're not going to grow at all, I think.
So you're like more an Eric Brakey libertarian. That you think that the libertarians should take over the Republican Party.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually DM'd him, so hopefully he'll say yes to coming on my show too.
Well, I have no problem harassing him on Twitter to get him to go on your show.
I don't want to harass anybody because I'm actually a fan of his. Like before he actually joined Yao, we were campaigning for him, and everyone in Yao was really pining for him to win that seat in Maine. And when he did it, we were all really sad, but we were like also really excited to see that he was joining us. So I've never spoken to him before, but I would like to talk to him because I know he's like, like the Liberty Republican people, like Massey, even Rand Paul. I know a lot of libertarians have problems with Rand too, but they're getting shit done. They're getting more shit done than the LP. So
Rand to me is working backwards. You get the best that you can, and then you work for more freedom. So you're working backwards because at this point, that's what it is. They've taken so much. They've garnered so much power at the government level of all levels of government. At it. Yeah, you got to work backwards. You got to get in there and then just start to strip away at them. So I call it working backwards, but I don't know, whatever. Maybe I'm just an idiot. I'm just some dude that talks shit on the internet. So whatever.
That makes sense. It makes sense.
So we were talking problems in America. There are 14,000 children in cages on the southern border. Thoughts?
I think the cages look worse now. The ones that Biden put up, they look
now
like
they put up balloons.
They look like torture chambers. Like, this is not trying to I'm really not trying to be funny, but at least like the pictures I saw from the Trump facilities, they were like in a big room and like all the kids were like together. Now it seems like fucking like isolation.
Trump's cages was like a daycare.
That's not what I'm saying, but at least it just looked a lot better. Now I'm like questioning what's actually going on because it looks like these kids are in like, what is it called when they're in prison? They put you in isolation. What is that called?
Solitary confinement.
That's what it looks like. It looks like solitary confinement. But
I bet they stack them. There's probably more than like 2 in each cage.
That makes it even worse because them shits are tiny.
I know.
They got bunk beds in there or something. But I'm not gonna sit here and act like a fucking liberal. Like, I'm not losing my mind over ICE like needing to figure out which kids are being trafficked or not. Like, I'm really not losing my mind over it. No. I just think it's very hypocritical that the left is like just ignoring this shit when they literally sat through it in the Obama administration, woke up and was like screaming about it for the last 4 years with Trump, and now that Biden built these fucking super cages. Who built the cages,
Joe?
Literally, he built that shit, and he's rebuilding that shit into solitary confinement fucking trailers.
Yeah.
So my only problem with it is the fact that the conditions definitely look worse now, and it's just hypocritical. It's very hypocritical.
See, my problem is that the Democrats spent 5 years screaming about it, squawking that he's got these kids in cages. AOC went down there for a little photo shoot in front of the parking lot.
I know. Is she gonna go back over there?
Yeah, no, hell no, that ain't happening. But
She
my
should.
point
If she
is
had the
that
balls, she would.
here's what pisses me off about it. It's that they caused this shit. They basically said, like, you know, if Biden gets elected, you let Democrats take control, whatever, this won't be an issue. People will be able to just come in, it'll be fine.
They lied.
And then you get tens of thousands of people that see that this happened in America, and they're like, oh, sweet. Now it's like, you know, freebie. We get to cross that border like libertarians want, right? Open border. That's what we have now.
Yeah.
Let's go. And then they locked them all in cages.
The Democrats lied. I mean, it's not really
shocking.
It's not really a surprise to me at all. It's not a surprise at all.
No, it's irritating that they. To me, I feel like they suckered these people into a really bad situation. So yeah, I feel bad for them in that situation. Did you see that one picture of like the caravan?
Like it was like a photo op, and they all had like Biden shirts on.
Biden let us in shirt.
I'm like, who the fuck paid somebody to go out there? Some fucking white photographer to go out there with a handful of Biden shirts and say, here, kids, put this on. I'll give you a couple pesos, and just like took pictures of them. That's so demeaning. They treat them like they're fucking like that. Literally, it looked like they're treating them like animals or like just like pawns.
How have the Democrats treated black people since, I don't know, the history of forever?
My favorite Democrat moment is when Nancy Pelosi wore kente cloth last year.
When they all did.
Yeah, but she was the funniest one because she needed. I don't know if you saw the video, but like they were like dragging her off the floor after she couldn't even get up. So
that's because she's like 8,000 years old. So
yeah,
there's true. That. Speaking of 8,000 years old, the Republican Party made an odd shift recently that I did notice, which is over the last 10 years, the Republican Party, or their elected officials at least, have actually been getting younger. You got Rollerball, Madison Cawthorn or whatever, you know, rolling around in his chair. You got a bunch of young women that have been elected recently. They seem to be recognizing that. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's a shift in the party itself. But the Democrats are becoming the old white wigs, so to speak, and the Republicans are getting younger. Have you noticed that, or am I just seeing shit?
No, you definitely do have a point. There are some young Democrats getting in there. John Ossoff, he's pretty young.
And he's a socialist.
Yeah. AOC, of course, is young. I know she's not a freshman, but yeah,
AOC's young more than just being young. She's young in the mind.
For sure. But yeah, you definitely have a point. There's some young Republicans getting in there. Cawthorn, he kind of weirds me out. I don't know what it is about him.
It's because he's in a wheelchair.
I really have nothing against him. I just feel like he just kind of says whatever.
Cawthorn is a grifter. He's a grifter.
That's what I'm saying. Like he just kind of says whatever talking points he has to. Like
he's a grifter.
He seems like he's like Charlie Kirk's brother or something like that. That's just the impression he gives me. I mean, whatever. There's a bunch of people like that. There's definitely a bunch of people like that. And I am so sad that one of them actually got into office, but they're all trying, so whatever. I guess it's what the people want.
I mean, you know, whatever. You know, democracy is the worst form of government, and I will die on that hill. Like, oh, great. Just because the majority of you say this is the right thing doesn't mean it's not moronic and stupid, but okay. Let's talk about, I've got a couple of Congress people because normally I just have like libertarians or anarchists on the show. So you're the one closest to the Republican as far as like in the work that you do and stuff and trying to get people elected and things like that. So let's talk about a couple of these new freshmen that I find hilarious. Great. Lauren Boebert. Let's talk about the little gun queen from Colorado.
At first, I thought she was really charming. I was like, look at her go. She's like 4'11". She's like 90 pounds. Of course, I support her right to own a firearm, especially she's a public figure.
Not a firearm, a bazooka. Let's get to it.
But then again, I'm like, she's making kind of a big deal about this. It seems kind of inflammatory. I'm like, it's like at some point we get it. And it's crazy because during the Capitol riots, I remember Massey tweeting out that he was okay and that he was armed. And I'm like, okay, I never knew that Massey was armed. See, he don't make a big fucking deal about it. He's just armed. He's not doing it for like the virtue signal or for like the internet points. He's not filming a video outside.
He ain't trying to grift.
Right. He's just a safe gun owner.
Right.
So that's when I noticed the difference. I was like, okay, this girl is bragging about it. She's creating all these problems when Massey.
Yeah, but come on, that tweet where she was like, "Man, I'm armed. I'm fine. Don't worry about it."
Right.
That
and
was
I'm like,
funny.
Massey has been probably armed ever since he's been on the Hill. So it's like, whatever. I mean, in general, I don't really mind her. It just like I don't know what she does other than post gun stuff on Twitter.
I don't know, but part of me is like,
she's better than Marjorie.
Well, she's next. Hang on. Part of me looks at it that the Republican Party says, "Oh, we're all pro Second Amendment," but they're not. That's a lie.
No. Yeah.
At least she I'll give her credit. Like she is 100%.
No, it definitely.
She's like, put a nuke in your backyard. I don't give a damn.
It's refreshing to see that for sure. I think there's just a more mature way to go about it.
I agree, but one of the funny things about it is that like her and AOC and the ladies in Congress, I don't know, man. It seems to me like they turned it into some weird high school cat fight that's on Twitter at least, and you're just like, what is wrong with you people? You're Congress people. Like,
yeah, I'm like, don't y'all have work to do? Don't y'all like get paid from our taxes? Like, I don't understand why the majority of their job seems to be on Twitter. It escapes me. It confuses me.
Apparently, they're not really that important or busy. So
no, not at all. Clearly not.
All right, now let's talk Marjorie Taylor Greene, the little QAnon
She's a
queen.
fucking nut. She is a nut job. She's a nutcase. She's a fucking crackerjack. She's a jackwagon.
This is like, what you get with democracy.
She's literally crazy. She's like, anyone who believes in QAnon, I'm like, you are literally not fit to be in office. You are literally not fit to serve anybody. So that's that on that. She just, again, very inflammatory, doesn't really do shit.
Just a nut job.
Literally just a nut job. And not even a smart one. Like, I feel like
you don't have to be smart to be in Congress. We've learned this.
For sure, but there's definitely nut jobs. Like, we're just talking about Alex Jones. Like, Alex Jones has a point sometimes. Marjorie literally never has a point. She's just crazy.
So, well, Alex Jones probably has a point most of the time. It's just hard to figure out what the point is.
He says it in a crazy ass way. Yeah.
Yeah, the when you mentioned the gay frog thing, I'm like, well,
he turned out to be fucking right. So
there's a sad thing about Alex Jones that no one ever wants to admit. About 90% of the shit he's ever said comes true or was true.
Right.
So like, he's a conspiracy nut job, and I'm like, well, he's right when he's wrong.
Yeah, but like the QAnon people who like legit believe in that shit, I don't know if
Alex Jones called out QAnon. I'm just saying.
He doesn't believe in that?
No, he called them out. He was like, what is wrong with you crazy people?
Okay, good. So that's my barometer. If Alex Jones doesn't believe in it, I don't believe in it either. So fuck that.
That's a pretty good barometer to be like,
he's been right. He's been right about a lot.
Okay, so we went through the fun ones so far. We got Rollerball and the other two ladies. Is there a specific congressperson that you think is like the best one out there? Because I have a favorite.
A freshman or out of all of them?
No, just anyone.
Okay, out of anyone, it's Massey. Out of the freshmen, somebody who's underrated is Byron Donalds.
I agree with that.
He's doing a lot of good shit, and he I think has the potential to be a good Liberty Republican. He's definitely MAGA. He's definitely like a Trump on the Trump train. But so was I at one point, and I'm moving definitely into like the libertarian.
I voted for Trump.
Field, I guess. Yeah.
2020, I voted for Trump. I didn't vote for him in 2016.
Okay. Yeah. So me too. But like Byron's like still like, MAGA. But I feel like he's definitely.
But is that a Trump thing or is that an America First thing? Is that we need to help America get Trump?
I think if you go to his Twitter bio, it still says like pro Trump or pro MAGA or something in it. But that was just his brand. But I think he actually He actually is pretty good. If you look at the stuff that he's actually doing, it's just like his brand kind of misleads people, but he's actually kind of a Liberty Republican. Not as Liberty as Massey, but I mean,
No
I
one in
was
Congress is as liberty as Massey.
no, but I was down there in Florida during his campaign for like a week.
Hmm.
Um, and people down there, he was really good with the people, and I was actually there for his primary. He won a 9-way Republican primary. So it was like it was a very heated race, and he was doing great. Like I just
Hmm.
thought he was like the perfect candidate to represent the people. Um, so yeah, I'm really happy he won, and I'm really excited to see like what he does. And I have a couple friends who work on the Hill with him, so hopefully I get to get in there. I would love to meet him.
Yeah, right on. All right. Let's see. You are in college currently, correct?
Yes.
You're wrestling, collegiate wrestler. Um, what are you studying in college?
I'm a political science major, which is very predictable. No one's ever surprised by that. Yeah,
Okay. I
very
kind of, if you
typical.
would have asked me to guess, that's what I would have guessed.
Exactly. I don't even know why people ask anymore. I
Well, I
really
just
don't.
I didn't know, I wanted to make sure, whatever. I didn't know. Maybe you had some, I don't know, biology thing you were doing
Yeah,
on the
I have like
side,
a secret
side
like side
hustle.
hobby. No, I
Like,
don't. I am not good at science, math, anything like that.
well, math is hard. Two
It
plus two is
is.
five. They tell us these days, so whatever.
Who knows? I couldn't tell you. I'm bad at it. Yeah.
So you're studying political science, and you had mentioned that at some point you'll probably run. What is it that you think you're going to be doing when you graduate? Like, what's your overall goal? You want to be like campaign manager? What is it you're
I
trying
would
to
love
look forward
I
to?
would love that. I think I have the capability to be running campaigns in a couple of years because I've played major roles in campaigns leading up to this. So I feel like by the time I'm out of college, I understand the whole grassroots, like every like in and out. I can definitely have the skill set to manage a campaign. I would also like to, continue with the content creation. I really like writing. I really like making videos. So if I could be, I don't know, continue like commentating, but also somehow still work behind the scenes in actual politics instead of just being somebody who like yells at your screen and doesn't really do shit. Like
Oh my god.
I don't want to be like a one of those like influencers who really doesn't like influence anything, you know?
Aw, come on now. Some of those girls are like grifting real well. They're doing
Yeah,
well.
they are grifting real well. They are, but I would just prefer
Who's
not to
the
be
gun
associated
girl?
with
What do
that.
I always remember? I can't and never
Caitlyn
remember it. Caitlin Bennett. That's one. Yeah.
Caitlyn Bennett.
Yeah. She's got a
I
good grift.
I'm not a fan.
Me
I'm
neither.
not a
I'm just
fan of
saying she's got a
her.
good grift.
Yeah, she definitely does. I'm not a fan of Liberty Hangout. They need to take the fuck Liberty the fuck out of their name. It's more like fucking theocratic monarchy hangout. They're like trad Catholic and like super
I
fucking
I got in
statist.
an argument with Eliza Schaefer on Twitter. Like, if you ever have time, you should look it up. Where I told him that basically you're an authoritarian, and he was like, "No, I'm not." And I was like,
I
"Yes,
think
you
I
are."
muted him. I think I muted him.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah,
good
he's fucking
call.
annoying. He's always like I feel like the reason I muted him, he's like always posting some shit about black people. I'm like, pay attention to your fucking self. Like he's always like, this is black culture in America today. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
What do you know?
let's
So
do
I think
that. One of
I
the
muted
things
I muted Matt Walsh for the same reason, or I think I blocked Matt Walsh.
I
But
muted Matt Walsh because he irritates the crap
there's
out
a
of me.
lot of annoying ass conservative guys on Twitter that just spout like the same talking points, and like I get them all confused because their feeds are all like carbon copies of each other. So I just like mute them.
You
I
mean
don't
like
care.
Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk?
I haven't muted Ben Shapiro. I've like been on again,
Because
off again
sometimes he
with
says
Ben.
funny things.
He's a funny guy. But lately he's been pretty annoying with the whole freaking out about like the Grammys and Cardi B thing. So I'm like, come on, Ben, you're like really pushing it. I want to unfollow, but I still kind of like you. And I don't really like for his opinions. Like you said, he's just kind of funny. And honestly, I feel like he's probably a nice guy. Like
Did,
I don't think he's a bad guy.
did you ever see the video of him when he just like said all of the lyrics to WAP from Cardi
Yeah.
B? Oh my god, that
It
was
was like a poetic reading. It was really
it
weird.
was it's so weird. And
That
hilarious.
as soon as WAP came out, that was when I stopped being like a Ben Shapiro fan. I was like, you gotta chill out. Like he puts it on my timeline more than anybody else. I'm like, if you don't want people to give a fuck about this, stop putting it on my fucking timeline.
Yeah, like don't talk about it. You know, that's I don't remember who it was. I saw a video. It might have been, I think it was Denzel Washington actually. They asked him like, well, how do we deal with race relations in America? And he said, stop talking about it. Like if you stop bringing shit up, like it'll be fine. We'll figure it out, you know. But they can't do that. They gotta just all the time about it. One of the things that I've been saying to a lot of libertarians that I've been talking to is that part of the biggest problem, Libertarian Party has the exact same problem the Republican Party has, which is they don't understand culture. They want to have their intellectual conversations and talk about how the Federal Reserve is horrifying, and you know, and they're right in all of it. But the problem is nobody gives a damn about that. Like you got to make them laugh. You gotta make good music. You gotta get in that culture. What are your thoughts as far as that goes? Because one of the things with my channel is that I like to have fun. I like to make jokes. I don't want it to be so serious. You know what I mean? And so that's been going well so far. But what are your thoughts on that as far as what the Republican Party or Libertarian Party, is there any chance for them at this point, or is the culture just gone and lost?
I think the pendulum always swings back. So, I definitely think after this election, after this election cycle, we'll definitely see some Republicans making some big gains in the House and Senate. Just because I feel like literally it just always swings back. Once people see the other side, they're like, okay, let's go back to this. Once they see that, okay, let's go back to this. But because it's a fairly long cycle that lasts several years, nobody really remembers or cares to remember what happened the past cycle before. So people keep electing the same kind of people. I don't think the Republicans' misunderstanding of culture is really going to hinder them much, because I don't think that the Democrats understand culture very well either. They think they do, and maybe some people think they do, but like their understanding, especially how it relates to Black culture and youth culture, is just like, I got hot sauce in my bag, I wear kente cloths, I'm gonna twerk and listen to Cardi B and Beyonce, and that's all I care about, and blah 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 blah. Like, I feel like young people are a little bit smarter than that. I feel like Black people are a little bit smarter than that. So yeah. I really don't think either party really understands the culture. They're both just pandering as best they can.
I agree with you on that 100%. I think, well, okay, I'm going to make one point and then I have another question. The Cardi B thing, I don't care. Like, whatever. Cardi B, she's doing her thing. She's trying to make money, you know, whatever. People apparently will give her money for it. So, you know, I don't care. What I do find hilarious is Cardi B is not Black.
No, I mean, she's probably like 25% Black. She's definitely got some like mixed race in her, but both
her parents are both Latino.
Neither of her parents are Black. Yeah. I think her mom is like Trinidadian, so she may have some Black in her, but that's like,
I mean, Cardi B is less Black than Kamala Harris. And that's what I'm saying.
Cardi B is less Black than I am, and I only have one Black parent, but neither are Cardi B's parents are Black. So
that's what I don't understand. They're like, oh, she represents Black culture. I'm like,
she's not American, and she's just not a Black American. She is Latina, and she always identified as that until she wanted to start saying nigga in her songs.
Yeah.
So now she has a Black husband, a half Black baby, and we're like, okay, she represents Black culture, but I'm like, no, she's not. She's Dominican and Latina. Like, that's fine. That there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. It's just, it's funny to me that people are like, oh, she's out here
people are like, this is the
degradation
of Black American culture. People are like, this is the degradation of Black American culture. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is not this has really nothing to do with that. And
do you ever think the majority of our fans are like, don't look at us, we didn't do it.
That's exactly how I feel. And I feel like the majority of her fans aren't even Black. I feel like she has a lot of white fans.
I think they're white.
I feel like it's a lot of white people are like listening to her music, like, yeah, this makes me cool. This is what the Black people listen to. But I really feel like I really feel like her like biggest fans aren't black.
No, I agree with you 100%. Let's because of that, that's funny, and I want to ask you, as someone that actually is way more black than Cardi B, Candace Owens is the best grifter out there, in my opinion. I respect her, and I respect what she's done, and I think she makes a lot of good points. And she's in a position that she can say things that I could never say because, I'm white, so I'm not allowed. But she has been called a black white supremacist, which is probably the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. What are your thoughts?
I honestly think there's people more guilty of that than she is, because there's people like Jesse Lee Peterson who will literally be like, I hate black people. Like,
oh, no. You misunderstand. When I say grift, I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way. A grift can be either.
No,
a good
I mean
or
like
bad
in
thing.
terms of like a black white supremacist. Like, I don't even think I don't think she qualifies.
No.
I think there are many more people who qualify as a black white supremacist.
Yeah, but that's still just a nonsensical term to me. It doesn't make any sense. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, I think definitely. Okay, so the thing about her is, I feel like people automatically call her a grifter because she switched her like positions, I guess, because she used to be a Democrat and then switched
Most
to
people
Republican.
used to be Democrat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like a lot of people switch their parties at some point in their lifetime. Where I do see the merit of the argument is when people look back and see her social autopsy website, and then the time that she
Wait,
won
that's a thing? That's a thing? A social autopsy?
You haven't heard of that?
No.
Okay, so her big scandal before she was like a Republican.
I just found a new favorite place.
No, listen, it's kind of bad. Like, it was like a huge scandal. It got shut down or something.
Oh, okay.
But it was like before she turned into a Republican, she created this website called Social Autopsy, and it was basically a doxing website, and it was supposed to basically keep track of people's offensive comments online and like notify their schools and like have their name and like their real name and stuff. Like,
she was one of them.
It was like an SJW type shit.
Gross.
And then even before that, I think when she was a senior in high school or something like that, I think it was definitely when she was a teenager. She had faced some racism. I think she's from Connecticut, somewhere up in like the New England area.
Yeah,
but
I saw something about
the
governor's son.
Yeah, it was like it was a politician's son. It was either mayor or governor or some shit. But she got the
sure
NAACP.
It was the governor. There was like a whole thing about it. Yeah.
It was like the NAACP got a settlement for her for like almost $40,000. So now she likes to talk shit about the NAACP and like racism. Don't even.
Yeah, but they were all on your team at one point.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying she's not allowed to change her opinions, but I feel like people act like she's like it's like she did so much for the Republican Party, when I feel like she's definitely did a lot for the Black conservative movement by like popularizing it, but I don't necessarily think she is I don't want to say best example. I don't think she's the only example for it.
Right. No, I agree. I look at Candace, and I appreciate what she's done. I respect what she's been able to accomplish in her life, which is, she's dropped out of college, went out and did her own thing, and turned herself into a brand.
Yeah.
So I can respect that, because I always respect the hustle, even if I disagree with the message. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with her message usually.
So. I used to be a huge fan, so I can't even knock her for her hustle or anything.
No, I'm not trying to knock her for her hustle at all. I respect anyone that's willing to get out there and hustle, but I just think that people like Moshur, Eric July, I think Hotep Jesus, I think they have a better, stronger message, in my opinion, but that's also my own bias.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Black women I feel like would have a stronger message. I don't know if you follow like Sunny Johnson. She's like one of my favorite commentators.
I love Sunny Johnson.
She's great. Shamika Michelle is a new favorite. I followed her for a long time, but she just blew up because she's been doing a lot of walkaway stuff, but she also blew up on the CPAC panel that Mosh Toure did. And so there's a lot of Black women who are definitely conservative, definitely want to promote like family values and capitalism and gun rights and all that kind of stuff, but they don't talk negatively about the Black community. They actually kind of like build up the Black community. So I would like to see more of that. That's not to say that Candace should be the platform, because I actually posted. I was excited that she got her own late night show on the Daily Wire, because I'm like, this is cool that now the late night show is.
That's why I call her a grifter. Not because she got the show, but did you see the headshots for the show?
Yeah.
Like a girl got her weave going. I'm like, what are you doing?
Her
It's
hair
never
looked
been
good.
your thing. Oh, it looked great. Don't get me wrong. Candace Owens is an attractive woman. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, you look at like the last few years, that's like, no. And then all of a sudden she's like, check me out. That's what I mean by grifting.
She definitely got glammed up. She definitely had a little glow up.
Yeah.
Probably hired a new hair and makeup team or something.
Yeah, I think her first show is like this. It might be tonight, actually. I think. I remember seeing something. I think it's like her, Ben Shapiro.
I think it is. It's
Nicole Arbor, who is also pretty attractive.
It's definitely this weekend. I don't like Nicole Arbor. She's fucking annoying.
I didn't say. I said she's attractive.
Sure, yeah, she's pretty. I just find her tweets to be like really obnoxious.
Have you seen her videos? They're worse.
A while ago, like I feel like one of the first videos that she made that went viral was like fucking like 10 years ago, where she would make all these videos about fat people.
Yep.
I think that's where I remember her from, like on the dark days of YouTube, but I haven't seen anything, like I haven't watched any of her like political videos at all.
No, her videos, like, first of all, they're like super edited and they're real short, and it's all very well put together like a skit. You know what I mean? And
she's one of those people that does this little like jump cuts, I feel.
Yeah, she does. She does. She absolutely does. So, and I guess I more prefer someone like Steven Crowder, where it's put together, it's produced, but
I used to be the biggest
weird things can happen.
I used to be a big Steven Crowder fan when he was doing like the Change My Mind series. And then I like stopped finding his podcast very funny. I was like, all you guys do is make fun of people. Like
that's true.
It ended up being very negative. And then recently, when he had that whole beef with the black farmers thing, doing that whole little skit, like stereotyping black farmers, I was like,
don't know what this is.
I was like, how many black people do you even know? Like, it was kind of crazy to see.
He's got a quarter black person on his podcast. There's that.
Does he? Okay.
They call him quarter black Garrett. I don't know.
Okay, well, I don't know if the quarter black guy gave him good research on what black farmers act like.
I'm assuming that 3/4 of the white side was like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, probably.
Let's talk about that. I just recently saw something, and I can't remember what state it was. But I do know that in the COVID relief bill, this recent monstrosity they passed, there is specific loans that are for black farmers only, which I'm fairly certain violates federal law. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that that's maybe? Let me ask it like this. Let's get your thoughts on that, and then let's get your thoughts on reparations.
I don't think there should be any pork added to the COVID relief bill, because it should just be COVID relief. And then I feel like adding any loans or any other legislation for anybody is pretty shady.
Okay, I agree with that. Now, let's talk about reparations, because this is one of those things that I apparently shock people with my opinion of it, but it sets people off when you talk about reparations. So I do wonder where you line up on that. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm pro reparations.
You're pro?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you think that if Olivia was Lord Emperor and was able to implement her will among the masses, how would you make these reparations happen? What's your thoughts?
So the plan that I like the best, and I've reviewed a bunch of different like black agenda plans or reparations plans. I've reviewed the Trump Platinum Plan. I've reviewed Ice Cube's plan. It was called A Contract with Black America. And I've also reviewed the ADOS plan, American Descendants of Slavery Plan, which is at ADOS101.org or some shit like that. I think that's the website, .com.org, something like that. But that's actually the one I liked the best. So I don't have like the specific number off the top of my head, but the numbers and stuff was in that report. And essentially it went into good detail, much more than the other plans did, about like how do we implement this, who gets reparations in the form of like a check, in the form of loans, blah 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 blah. So I'm like so bad at explaining everything because it was like a whole long list of points. But if you go to the American Descendants of Slavery website, that's the one I agree with the most.
Well, anyone and everyone that watches this should definitely go and check that out. I'll even tag it in when we're done here.
It's a good website.
So I always shock people because, you know, I guess I'm white, so I'm supposed to be against reparations. And I'm like, I'm not. In fact, I have informed several people that there was a Union general that attempted reparations like right after the Civil War, where he said, you know, and there's an entire book, I have it in my shelf in there, where his outlook was, look, you can't take these people that have been enslaved and they don't have anywhere to go and they don't know anything other than what they're doing, and just send them out in the world. That's nonsense. You can't do that. And so he had a plan where he had actually seized from slaveholders property, and he was giving the slaves as reparation 40 acres and a mule.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my head, I'm always like, they never got their 40 acres and a mule because Abraham Lincoln, the great, you know, president or whatever, which he was not, and I have more books that I could send to you.
Great emancipator.
Yeah, which if people knew about Abraham Lincoln, they would stop saying shit like that. But he put a stop to it. He said no, and he took all the property, even away from those men that had been gifted, or not gifted, but given that property. And so I look at it from that, like, if you take slavery and thrown them out, and then you also take everything that followed, you know, redlining, Jim Crow, all that, you held a community down insufferably. And I don't care which party did it, that's not important, but it happened. And so there is that's still happening. I mean, it's still there. That after effect is still there.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because every time I mention reparations, everyone's like, you're not a slave. Nobody who was a slave is still alive. I'm like, who the fuck said it only had to do with slavery? It was followed by like 100 years of further discrimination.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
and holding them down. Just holding them back, holding them down.
Right. And I'm not saying it's white people's fault. It was the government's fault. So I'm not viewing it as like black versus white. It's definitely the state versus the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the effects of everything that black people face are still very apparent. I mean, I think the easiest way it could be measured is the median household income between whites and blacks. And when you look at the median generational wealth gap, you know, how much people are getting an inheritance and things like that. Because when you think of the fact that my grandparents were not allowed to own a house or own a business in a nice part of town, how does that translate into their kids getting something, or their kids being raised in the best schools or the best neighborhoods, and so on and so forth? And my grandparents are still alive. Like my grandfather, who served in the United States Air Force, still had to deal with Jim Crow and segregation. So I'm like, why should he not get paid for that? It's like, I don't understand how people can like look people in the eye and say that, because every other group that went through some shit got paid. The Japanese people got paid.
The Native Americans still get paid to this day.
And to be fair, they don't. I feel like the Native Americans, the deal they got was kind of shitty, because they got like the shittiest land that the Americans didn't want, pushed them in the fucking desert.
I agree with that. Yes. I will say all of them except the Navajos, because the white man came to the Navajo land and went, "Oh, this place sucks. You can just stay here." That's what happened.
Yeah, there wasn't. Yeah, everyone else got to go on the Trail of Tears. The Navajos, they were like, "Yeah, y'all can keep that shit."
Yeah, you can keep this shit. Oh, we don't care about that. Like, it's fine. Yeah. But we're gonna put this little line around you. Just stay.
I hate this, but I'm literally blood related to Andrew Jackson. So every time I think of the Trail of Tears, you know who else I'm blood related to? You're gonna lose your shit.
Who?
My eighth, like great eighth great aunt is Pocahontas from the Powhatan tribe. So it gets a little crazy there.
So great-great-grandpa was trying to kill great-great-grandma.
He's more distantly related to Pocahontas. I'm like more. It was so like my 8 times great grandmother is her sister, I want to say, or cousin. Either way, it's like she's my 8th grade aunt.
Yeah.
But Andrew Jackson, it was like they're just one of Pocahontas's nieces, who I'm a descendant of, married into the Jackson family, and then they had kids, and then somehow that spat out me.
So what I'm garnering from this is that you're more Native American than Elizabeth Warren.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I don't go around saying, "Oh, look at my high cheekbones. Can you guys tell I'm Native American?" Like making up a whole story about how my parents had to elope because one of them was Native American. Like, who the fuck told you that? What are you talking about? This wasn't some distant family lore. You're literally making up a story about your parents eloping because your mom is like a
you didn't find a journal in the trunk in the attic somewhere.
No, that's like a straight up lie.
Well, politicians are pretty good at that.
And then she took a DNA test and she was like, "See, got you. I'm 0.016% Native American and pay up, Trump." I'm like,
my favorite thing about that was Trump. He was like,
I'm like, if you're
he trolled her right into doing that test,
right?
So he could be like, "Told you you're white."
I cannot believe she did that. I cannot, because it made her look 10 times fucking worse. Because if you literally are going around having a story about how your mother, a Cherokee squaw, had to elope because your father's family was fucking racist, and then it turns out that you're less than 1% Native American, that just proved that the story was complete fabrication. And the fact that she wrote, I think it was whatever university she was going to, she applied as a Native American.
She did. She was listed as the first Native American female senator in U.S. history. And it's like, you're not. Like, what?
I cannot believe people did not clown on her more for that, because I feel like that was the funniest thing ever. And everybody just let it slide.
Trump went after her, and I was like, this is one of the funniest things ever.
They were mad at Trump for saying Pocahontas. I was like, how is it more racist to say Pocahontas than to actually pretend you're Native American? And Trump, if you're watching this, I'm an actual descendant of Pocahontas. It's okay if you call somebody Pocahontas.
What was funny about it is that Trump knew she was white, right? Like, he knew. He was like, she's just making shit up.
It's not like he was calling her American.
No, he was calling her Pocahontas as a troll. Like, just be like, you're not Native American. Stop it. That's what he was doing.
Yeah. If she was actually Native American, I would see how calling her
I don't think he would have called her that.
Yeah, but he knew that she was very Caucasian, and she proved it herself. So
man, I miss Trump trolling people. I gotta be honest.
I miss Trump on Twitter. The only reason I even joined Twitter was to see Trump's tweets, and now he's gone.
Like Trump on Twitter was like some of the funniest shit ever. You know what I mean? Because you're just like, you never know what this crazy dude's gonna say, and it was always a good time. Well, I think we might have lost her here for a minute. We'll give her just a second and see if she pops back in or not.
Okay.
There she is.
Here I am.
Came back.
I had no idea what happened. It literally just went to a black screen and said it was loading. So I'm sorry.
No worries. Don't worry about it. We are running short on time here. I have to take my wife for sushi tonight. So
sweet.
We're gonna wrap up here. Let's see if is there anything else that's super important. Oh, one more thing. So China just literally laughed at America in Alaska the other day, which, I mean, I can't really blame them. Joe Biden's our president, so come on.
I can't blame them either. I can't blame them.
Are we fucking doomed when it comes to China, or what?
Hold on, repeat that. Sorry, it like cut out.
Are we doomed when it comes to China, or?
Probably, yeah. I think everyone thinks we're a joke now. I'm a little bit black-pilled on the China thing. I'm like, yeah, probably.
Yeah. They're gonna run this bitch.
We're probably fucked.
Well, maybe the libertarians should see that as an opportunity to actually just like bring everyone back and be like, no, we're good. We just stay over here.
Hopefully.
Like we have the largest military in the world, and they're all right here. So try something stupid and see what happens.
That's true. Maybe if we weren't fucking spread so thin, we'd actually be formidable.
I agree with you on that 100%. This has been a blast. I am so appreciative that you've done this. Why don't you tell everyone what you got going on, where to follow you? I got some stuff running on the banner there. And it's all linked in the description, of course, her YouTube channel, which is great. Everyone should subscribe because if you don't, you hate freedom.
Exactly.
Tell us what's up, Olivia. Like,
Thank you.
What do you got going on?
Obviously the main two things I'm on is Twitter and YouTube, so I guess that's in the description. But something else I'm working on is I'm a new columnist for the Rogue Review, so I write a lot of opinions there. So if you want to see my opinions in long form, besides Twitter, where there's a character limit, go to the roguereview.net and then click my column at the top, and then you can see all my opinions in multiple paragraphs forms. It's very convenient. Other than that, I'm really not working on much besides doing my own live streams on my own channel, which I just started about 2 weeks ago. My next guest for tomorrow is David Fight, and I do have some other guests. Yeah, I have some other cool guests coming up in these next coming weeks. So yeah.
That's excellent. David is super fun. Make sure that you put him on his heels. Make sure you put him on his heels.
Oh yeah. I want to ask him if he wants to smoke with me on live because I know he's a big stoner. So I'm going to ask him if he wants to.
I've done a couple streams with him. He's high every time. There's just no.
Oh my God,
he just gets high the whole time. Fun. There's no way around it.
So
ask him about the yellow square on his Twitter. Make sure you ask him that. That's an important question. You have to remember.
Okay, I'll ask him.
Because that'll screw with them and it'll be funny. So
okay, I'll ask him.
I'll definitely tune in and check that out tomorrow night. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great time. Thanks, Olivia, man. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much.
Do. All right, guys, we're going to let go of this thing.